Tony, cheers. Thank you for having me on Unscripted Arena.
Yep.
Congrats, man. I'm proud of you, what you're doing, and excited to get this thing going. You ready?
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Excited to have you to share your story, your journey, and just tell us about who Mark is of On the Mark.
Well, I am from Sunnyside, Washington. That is where I originate from. It's been a long journey, but again, Sunnyside, Washington. I come from humble beginnings. My grandparents were actually the first ones to ever have the first Mexican restaurant in the Yakima Valley. So I come from entrepreneurship.
What was the name?
La Fiesta. La Fiesta restaurant. Shout out La Fiesta. If you know, you know. But yeah, my grandfather was a pioneer in the community. And, quite frankly, my dad is honest. I say this all the time, but he is the most talented individual when it comes to, they say master of none, when it comes to a jack of all, right? But at the end of the day, my dad genuinely, I've watched him dominate anything he'd ever touched. And so it really inspired me just to dream, big when it comes to like what I wanted to do post high school career. But when I told him I was going to beauty school, he wasn't too happy. So at the end of the day,
yeah, because you were the star quarterback, weren't you?
I was the star quarterback. My last pass in my high school career was to win the game. Look it up. True story. We thought we were going to the playoffs, but Prosser lost on purpose.
So it's like that South Park episode where the kids didn't want to play past summer.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a couple of linemen crying, and I'm like, I had a broken wrist that year. But yeah, no, it was special, man, to grow up in Sunnyside, Washington. We actually met through Aaron Guerra, which is a dear friend. Shout out Aaron. He's one of my best friends to this day. We went to preschool through high school together, but I met Tony through Aaron, which has been such a blessing to get to know you because, quite honestly, you've been an integral part of a lot of things that I've been able to implement into the partnerships that I do, the way I speak when it comes to like different leagues. And I'm very grateful for the insight that you've poured into me. So
thank you. Yeah. I just try to help people. So, I mean, what was the pivotal moment in your youth that helped you become who you are today?
Pivotal moment in my upbringing and childhood, I would have to say, would be, honestly, being around the men's fellowship groups that my dad had me around as a little boy. I went to Catholic school for 10 years, but my parents were in the music ministry. They were in the contemporary Christian music ministry. And so I didn't know it at the time, but, before my Grid Kid games and just every Saturday, my dad would play his guitar at the men's fellowship group. And there was a group of, 15, 20 guys that there was just a great group of men that I was being poured into at a young age that I didn't even realize, the impact it would have later on. But I would say, just having great mentors and just great people around me to be able to, I guess, soak a lot of the game in. And a lot of what I'm talking about is respect, right? Yeah. And just being personable and like getting to know people from a genuine standpoint is really what I was taught at an early age that, I think has been a vital part of all of my success of what I've been able to accomplish.
Nice. So how'd you get into barbering? And for those that don't really know who you are, right? I mean, a lot of people know who you are, but for those that don't, like, tell us a little bit more about On the Mark.
So I started On the Mark in 2004. Went to beauty school. Like I said, my dad wasn't too happy to hear I wasn't going to a 4-year and actually like doing something else when it comes to being self-employed wasn't the thing back in the day. You know what I mean? It was really, barbering back then wasn't the most lucrative thing in the world. A lot of the barbers that were barbers were old, 70, 80 years old that were dying out, but people were going to salons at the time. Yeah. And so for him, it was like to see the future of it. He was, he wants the best for me, obviously. He's my father. But I had a mentor in Mekon that had Yaktown's finest that I'll never forget it. I was looking for a car, and I saw a guy that was, this car salesman that was showing me. I test drove the car, and he had a really smooth haircut. I was like, I cut my own hair, I started cutting hair when I was 12 years old. I don't know if I put that in there, but when you cut hair, you kind of notice like it's kind of, it was love,
certain things.
It was a love, like where I was like, man,
like game appreciates game.
Exactly. And it was something I'd never seen before because in Sunnyside, Washington, where I'm from, everybody was getting bowl cuts, or they were getting like slick backs, and there was no such thing as a taper or a low fade, like it was unheard of. And so I asked the guy that was giving me the demo, or was driving the car around. I said, man, where'd you get your? And he was like, oh, Meeks, man, you got to go check him out. He's like, he's on 16th and Tieton. He's Yacktown's finest. And I was like, who's this guy? So I made an appointment immediately. I will never forget it. I walked into that shop, and literally there was like 6'10" guy, 6'8" guy, but it was packed with like 20 people in this little bitty shop. And the energy was just like this thing was jumping. Right. And I was like, what the hell's going on? Like they were playing Madden, and like people was talking shit back and forth, but it was like in good spirit. Yeah. And
this was in Sunnyside.
No, this was in Yakima.
Yakima, okay. Yeah.
After I graduated, I moved up with my dad. He was living in Yakima at the time. So I walked in that shop, the CDA, the basically developmental league for the NBA. They had a team called the Yakima Sun Kings. Long story short, all the players were in there. Some of the YBC community college basketball players were in there, but they were playing Madden for like beef sticks and like jerky and like pops and stuff. So I remember watching that, like, what is going on in here? Like, and this guy was going through haircuts like crazy. And I'm like, dude, this guy's doing a haircut like once every 15 minutes. Like, but
what the math come out to?
So then I ended up like taking more interest, and then like, yo, I've been thinking about cutting hair. He's like, really? Like, Meg's kind of guy, like he's a competitive dude. So he was like, oh, you think you cut hair? I'm like, I've been cutting hair since I was 12. Long story short, he's like, I'm gonna teach you the numbers game of barbering. There's 27 haircuts I do a day, one every 15 minutes. He was charging $22 a haircut, $20 a haircut. I was like, this is like $100 an hour. Yeah. Like, where else am I making $100 an hour? Yeah. And he was like, girls come back every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, every 6 months. You don't know if they're growing their hair. Men, it's once a weekers, you're once every other weekers, you're once a month. So it's way more predictable. It's easier to get a clientele going. And once he showed me the numbers game and showed me that I had a job, once I graduated from barber school, I was like, man, I'm in. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I ended up going to barber school. I didn't end up working for Mecom. I ended up going back to my hometown, which was 30 miles. It was Sunnyside, 30 miles away from Yakima, just because I had a lot of friends and family that supported me, and I knew I just wanted to cut my teeth there. Yeah. And really like kind of hone my craft and get good. And it ended up being a 10-year career there that was really, really good to me. But I ended up opening up another shop in Tri-Cities in Pasco. And the rest is kind of history. I think the coolest part about this journey.
So tell us a bit about how you got into that celebrity barber world.
That's funny you say this, because most people think, you luck up, you DM a guy, and next thing you know, you're on. And it was so much. I don't think it happens first and foremost by not paying it forward to Joseph, which ended up buying my shop in Sunnyside when I was just done traveling, right? I was like, I don't want to travel back and forth from Tri-Cities. I had a shop in Tri-Cities and Sunnyside, I think almost 5 years.
And what's the distance between that?
It was like 40, 45 minutes.
Yeah, so that's time.
And like, it seems like it's not that long when you live in Seattle, but in Eastern Washington, like you're traveling. Yeah. And I was just kind of like done, but you know how good God is. It's like, right when you think like you're done traveling, he was just preparing me
for the real
travel, which was to Seattle. Yeah. And that's
funny. What, like 2-3 hours?
Yeah, 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours.
And what's funny is he gave me a nice little 3-month break, but I'll never forget it. I'll never forget selling my shop to Joseph, basically for the equipment in the shop. I wasn't trying to make money off it. I just wanted to put it in the right person's hands that I knew. My clients that had been so loyal for so long, they were in good hands, you know what I mean? And I believe in like paying it forward too. He also was really loyal to me.
He was with you for a while, right?
Yeah, he was with me for almost 8 years. Okay. And so, he deserved it. Shout out to Joseph Rodriguez from On the Money Barbershop. And without you and, just everybody along in this journey, I wouldn't be here today. But I guess to kind of round out what you're asking is, I I ended up selling it. That took that $5,000 for the equipment in the shop.
Yeah.
And I moved my shop in actually Tri-Cities off of Clearwater in Kennewick, Washington. And I took it from this like little itty bitty shop and I moved it up the street near like where the pub was at. And the pub was exactly where the Seahawks were going for the 12-man tour. And so if I didn't like sell the shop, pay it for it, and then not only that, but just like capitalize on buying this new shop, which was right across the street from where these guys were going, who knows if this would have happened, you know?
Right.
And then I guess why I think like, you know, eventually, long story short, Brandon Browner, Richard Sherman, and Doug Baldwin were coming down for the 12-man tour. I was already a diehard Seahawks fan as a little bitty boy. I was already taking the barber to the pub because this was right when they lost to the Falcons.
Okay.
You knew like something special was brewing.
There's something about that team.
Oh man, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like the LOB was the LOB.
Yeah.
Russ was a young dog. Like of course Sean is Sean. He's the baddest running back to ever touch the rock. And there was just a swagger about the team that, you know, the whole Pacific Northwest knew something was about to happen.
There was something special. Right?
No, 100%. And obviously Pete, man, the culture he had, it was like the Trojans on a whole different level.
Yeah.
Like, I guess what I'm getting at is
we don't want to say steroids.
Exactly. Right, exactly. I thought myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, they ended up coming through. It's a funny story, actually. I'll never forget it. I was at the pub and my phone had been acting up and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, man, my phone like not recharging, rebooting. Probably like 5-6 hours go by. I go shut the phone down.
Yeah.
And I turn the phone back on. I'm in the pub waiting for these guys. It's packed. I'm talking lines around the thing twice.
And these all to see the tour.
Yeah. This is just for our 12-man tour. Yeah. I turn my phone on, and I'm not joking. I see like 5 messages from Brandon Browner. And he's like, and this was like 7 a.m. in the morning to like, and it's like 4 in the afternoon at this time. And I see all these messages come through. And he's like, bro, what's up with the cut? I need a cut.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at that thing and being like, I looked at my brother so sad. I was like, I missed it. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
that was your shot.
Yeah. I was like, I looked at him and I'm like, I fucked up, bro. I missed it. And he was like, you missed what? And I'm like, I'm not joking. I turned my phone off. I turned around and started walking out.
Yeah.
He's like, where are you going? And I'm like, this man wanted a haircut, bro. And I just haven't responded all day long because I didn't even see it.
Like, what, 5 hours, 6 hours?
Yeah, like 7 hours later.
Yeah.
There's no way he's getting a haircut. I just thought, like, I effed up and I was just pissed. Long story short, I walked back to the shop. There's no way I'm getting back in the pub when there's, like, lines around it. My brother's like, bro, we waited here for a while. Why would you leave? I'm like, well, maybe he might want to come through still. Like, I don't know.
You had faith.
Yeah. I still was like, I was upset, but I also was like, if he wants to come through, I better be at the shop. And so he ends up coming to the pub. My brother's like, they just showed up. And I'm like, there's no way I'm getting back in there. Like, just whatever. I was just kind of down. And then BB hits me and he's like, yo, what's up, bro? Where you at? I was like, I was there. I was like, but I missed you. I'm sorry, bro. He was like, come back over here. He's like, you can cut me after. And I was like, for real? He's like, yeah, come back over here. Mind you, I never cut him before. The only way we did connect was that I cut some of his semi-pro football players that he played with in the CFL. They played for the Tri-City Fever at the time. And he ended up telling, I remember going to the front door and people that worked for the Hawks were like, what do you want? And I'm like, I'm here to see Brandon. And they were like, he's working, get out of here. And which that's what they're supposed to do, right? That's their job.
And Brandon's too busy doing his thing.
Exactly.
He's not letting them know. It's like, hey, some guy's coming over.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, I didn't want to bother anybody.
Yeah.
I was just like, I didn't even know what was going on. So anyways, I ended up leaving, walking back, and he's like, where you at? I'm like, oh, they said you were working for it. He's like, come back to this store over here. I got you. I'm like, are you serious right now? So I ended up going to the door, and they're like, he's like, that's my barber. Let him in. And I'm like, I never cut it before. I'm like, is this really happening right now? Because it was special to me. You know what I mean? Like, just to be a lifelong fan and to see all this come to fruition, it was such a blessing. Long story short, I ended up cutting his hair. And Earl Thomas at the time was cutting his dreadlocks off. And
Earl kind of took you in.
Earl took me under his wing, his whole family. I'm forever indebted to Earl Sr., to Miss Debbie, to Seth. These guys are all, I wouldn't be here without them. I really wouldn't. Yeah. They provided me a home to live in whenever, honestly, going back and forth 3 hours each way. There's no way I would have been able to grow and actually cut more and more guys
without their help.
Without him giving me a place to stay and living with him, and they treated me like family. Yeah. And to this day, I'm forever indebted, because just like yourself, just like the people that supported me in Sunnyside, to Earl, to Russ, to all these people, it took every single person, I truly believe in my heart, to pour into me in a small way, to be able to provide this opportunity, to be able to do these things. Yeah. And I guess that's the ultimate message of it all is, that's why my gratitude will forever be on high. Yeah, I've had different exchanges with different guys, and yeah, it hasn't always been peachy in different ways, but guess what? At the end of the day, like, I try to find the silver lining, like the great Doug Baldwin said, you win some and you learn some, right? And there's always a lesson.
There's always this lesson.
Even when it hurts, even when it's like, damn. So yeah, I think that was that was special. But let's just say I've gained partnerships with like the MLB and the Mariners, and I'm forever grateful to have a barbershop in T-Mobile Park that they allow me to go cut hair in and to be able to service.
Tell us more about T-Mobile Park and like your relationship with the Mariners.
Big shout out and a huge thank you to Zekin for making this happen. They have an amazing platform. Check out their website, zekin.com, ZEACON.com.
Yeah, so tell us more about your experience with the Mariners and how you got connected to that whole organization, because because people are excited about the Mariners, right? Especially they've made the playoffs, after not being in the playoffs for a long time last season, and this season, kind of expectations were high, but the delivery was short, right? So how did you get connected to that organization?
I wouldn't say the delivery was short. I got to give Mr. DePoto, Mr. Service, and everybody their props. I think people got to realize that the last two World Series champions have came out of the AL West, and we were out of the playoffs by 1 or 2 games each year. Okay. And it very easily could have been us. And so I think, like, I've been there 8 years, first and foremost. Shout out to Felix, the King, Hernandez. Without you, my brother, I wouldn't be there. But Felix is as good of a dude as they come, period, when it comes to being genuine and just looking after his people. Yeah. To be able to have my son Marcus with Jeremy, his son, be able to go in there as little boys and go to the ice cream machine. Yeah. After, he just threw a gem. Yeah. It's something that it's special to me to be able to allow my kids to have those type of opportunities. But speaking of the Mariners, I think the coolest part about all of this is I've been able to work with both sides of the house when it comes to visiting and home teams. But I think to kind of put in, wrap it up quickly, I think the best way to put it is they've drafted really well. They built the farm system in a way that's what it takes in baseball, is that, like, the good teams in baseball, they're not bought anymore. They're really like
so there's like
through a farm system,
homegrown talent.
Yeah, well, there's camaraderie that's built, and there's like that brotherhood that's built that is special. Yeah. But to have a kid like Julio, be a part of the Pacific Northwest, and to watch him at 17, 18 years old come to the barbershop, excited to get a haircut. Yeah. I knew he was special. Like, when I say I knew he was special, there's just certain people that have auras about them that not only are they genuine, but they're physically gifted, you can tell, but they also work like...
You see the work ethic.
Well, they work like they're trying to make the team.
Yeah, you see the behind the scenes. Yeah. Which, quite frankly, a lot of people don't get to see.
Right. But, there's that confidence when dudes look at you and they're like, oh, just wait. Like, you just...
The time's coming.
Well, you could feel that they really believe that. Yeah. And when you believe it, I believe you. That's kind of what I tell people. Like,
because it starts from within.
100%.
Right?
100%. But to watch that whole maturation of him, to watch, like guys like George Kirby, and I'm loving to see Mitch Haniger come back, with the cards that they were dealt, as far as, there's salary cap and people need to make money when it comes to teams. It's above my pay grade. Yeah. But to see how they've built the farm system. We had like the worst farm system in baseball like 4 years ago to the best farm system in baseball. And I think, I think we're on the horizon of something super special happening. And I like to think that if you go look at other cities that have done well, like when the Giants and the Niners and like cities tend to win.
It wasn't overnight.
No, not only that, but cities, you tend to win when it comes to like different sports in each city. When one city's doing well, oftentimes like all the sports in that city kind of like follow suit. And I truly believe it's because they pour into each other, they share information. There's a culture, the team, the fan base is already invigorated by like that energy. And in my opinion, I think the Pacific Northwest got the best fan base in the country by far.
Yeah, we still need the Sonics back on.
They're coming. And Coach Dave comes through here. The Kraken have been a blessing to be able to work with as well in the NHL.
So I think a lot of people want to know, what was it that connected you? Would you say that it's your experience, or is it the fact that you've done such a good job with the players, and that it's like, hey, this guy's actually good, but like you should talk to this guy?
That's interesting you ask that, because like you're not gonna be for everyone, right? And what I mean by that is like there's certain people that like my guy John, he cuts, right? That plays for the Seahawks. There's certain guys that like, if I feel like a certain guy's gonna have a good rapport with a certain dude, I don't like try to hoard things. I'm trying to scale this in a way that like the team is here to pour into each other.
So they know that you're not selfish.
Not only just that, but like we're here just to do a good service and get out the way pretty much. You know what I mean? Let them do their thing. And I think like I really stress that, especially to the barbers that I work with. Of course, there's guys like JP or Julio or different people that have, whether it be taking a picture, doing small pieces of content. It's their way, I feel, of like supporting my business when it comes to like pouring back into me. And I'm eternally grateful for that. When I say that, I don't, number one, I don't like assume that that's a given and I don't expect it. You know what I mean? And so, that's been the most special part of it all, is like organically letting these things happen. But I also believe that like storytelling from the chair and where I want to take it. In-game content, like instead of the guy going out there and just throwing the first pitch, like what if we did a 30-second clip where we don't even have to cut his hair, we can trim neck hairs, you know what I'm saying? Like talking and interviewing him a little bit about like how he feels about being at this, new to the city. Like, just giving the fans some context that are watching it out on the, instead of just saying the 2025 first round draft pick of the Seahawks is this, like, what if they got a little bit more connection?
Add a little more zest.
Just storytelling and connectivity. And so it doesn't even have to be me doing it. I just think like that's where content's going, and like fly on the wall type of things. But let's not just storytell, but let's talk about like, JP's showcase that highlights African American baseball players that don't get opportunities because they don't have enough money to travel around the country, and shed light on things that matter to these guys, that hopefully there's a young kid watching this that like will want to join the showcase because he didn't even know about it. You know what I mean? And so that's really what I'm passionate about.
And you're given the blueprint of here's what it takes.
Right.
It's not all like glitz and glamour. There's work involved. Right?
No, 100%.
There's the days where you toil away in a back room cutting hair for free. Right?
I still cut hair. And I say that when I say I still cut hair, I'd say I want to be retired by now, but I know in my heart that to stay sharp with the clippers and to stay in a niche market that I worked really hard to get into.
Continue the craft.
I would be dumb to just like say, hey, I'm just a host now. Because I would be a host with the rest of the world that's our host. Like
some guy's gonna come out with like a crooked, crooked line or whatever.
Right. So if you're looking, I think at the end of the day, just interviewing from the chair is something that's really passionate. Just think TED Talks, right? Like it doesn't need to be athletes. It doesn't need to be. I'm talking about linchpins of each individual industry that, there's so many different Michael Jordans of different crafts out here
that people don't know about.
And I think it's important because those people that are, interested in each individual, I guess, genre of what they do, there's little tidbits of like nuggets of gold.
Well, even in your story, I mean, people don't see the hours that you took to say goodbye to your family drive 3.5 hours one way,
Right.
cut some guy's hair for what, 20 minutes, half an hour, and
In
then
the snow.
in the snow, then decide, do I drive back or do I stay overnight and not see my kid wake up the next morning?
Trust me.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time to these barbers. They think they're ready. And then they're like, oh, you know, and I said, let me tell you a little something. After 10 years of owning 2 shops where I could have just been chilling,
Yeah.
this was my passion project. And I loved doing it.
Yeah.
And so I won't say the player, but I used to drive up here in the off season, right when I thought, been working all season, like
Yeah.
I get time to chill. That very next week, he's like, hey, bro, I need a haircut. I'm like,
Yeah.
and it's for one guy at the time for a $60 haircut
Yeah.
that it was going to cost me $100, $90 to $100
For the travel and everything.
for the gas alone.
For the gas alone, not even like where
So I'm
you're going to
losing
stay.
money.
Yeah.
And then I'm 8 to 10 hours in the car, and I got to go over a white pass because Snoqualmie Pass is closed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it takes.
That's dedication.
Well, there's just levels to want to.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to self-glorify. I just say that because there's nothing I'm trying to motivate even my barbers or anybody like, hey, there's nothing I'm asking you to do
That you haven't done.
that I haven't done and still do.
Yeah.
And so I just think like at the end of the day, like I was big into just always showing it through my actions, but now I'm trying to be a better leader when it comes to just kind of describing the process that I had to go through.
Yeah.
Give them context of like, this actually isn't that big a deal to like stay a couple hours extra to do certain things. You know what I mean? And, you know, at the end of the day, if they don't want to do it, I still love you, but now I know what to expect from you.
Yeah.
And the next time I might not ask you to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's okay. But at the end of the day, there's just, I think the cream rises to the top.
Yep.
And we ain't in the Hunger Games, but this is survival of the fittest, baby. And I came to play.
That's all. I love it. So, for what are the top 3 tips that you could share for any aspiring barber or even entrepreneur that are looking to play at the high level of serving champions, right? Because you work with champions, right? So, what would you say are those top 3 things?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I would say, number 1, don't focus on working with celebrities or anything like that at all.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it's great to have that as your North Star and to think like that would be a dream someday. But there's a lot of in-between work that goes into that when you start trying to angle and think you're going to do it and you're going to maneuver by like this, just being like, I guess, like thinking you can manufacture it.
Right.
I would say 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen. Why I say that is because most of the people that have put me on, that have taken me to that next level, God's put these people in my life where I didn't even know that these were the people that were going to do it. And so you have to open every door, but it comes down to consistently treating people with respect and just like you would treat everybody else. And like genuinely having good energy and training good energy. And I say that to say this, that if it's been on tour or if it's been asked to do, you know, high level production shoots, this, that, and the third, a lot of times the people that actually ask me is their management, but they also told me that, you know, that guy in the cafeteria that you're talking to? Yeah, he's the lead of security. And like, you're like, oh, I mean, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he said he recommended you, you know? And so I think at the end of the day, it comes down to just genuinely not trying to, I always say like, you know, I'm not this good, but he is.
Yeah, God
is, period. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when I really, you know, that's my prayer every day when I wake up, like, I don't know what you need for the day, but flow through me, you know, Lord, in a way that like I can never do on my own. And please use me in a way that Tony, you know, or whoever I come in contact with needs for the day. And I think like when you genuinely have that heart, God does amazing things that you end up connecting with people in ways that are so far beyond anything you could ever comprehend. Yeah. Because, you know, he's that good. So I think just staying genuine, staying in your purpose of, it don't need to be a celebrity. It could be the everyday Joe. It could be anybody. Like, just be intentional about wanting to pour into people when it comes to, like, hopefully adding a slight bit of value that's not from you, but that he's using you to be able to deliver.
Yeah. I think that's awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show.
Man, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
God bless, man. And, you know, at the end of the day.
On the Mark, Seattle.
On the Mark, Bellevue, Seattle. We're in Bellevue here. But, yeah, stay on your purpose. You know, I think if you maintain that prayer of like, yo, let me be great at what I love, but also let me be impactful about how I'm really trying to, in a small way, do our part to be able to pour into each and every individual. Because I think I read something that said, you don't know what it's to live until you know what it's to give. And I think that's a real one.
Well, cheers to that, brother.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Cheers.
Let's get it. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning into the show. If you found value in what our guests shared and what we share on the show, please feel free to share with your friends and family. We'd love to see you back here. Thank you again. And you can find us on pretty much every social media channel, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Step into the unscripted arena.